Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today for this Freckle in Action webinar. It's wonderful to have your company today. Hopefully lots of you are able to join us and the school day has finished, so we're not interrupting any lessons or post-school day meetings you might be having, but it's wonderful to have your company nonetheless. As you introduce our two guests today, I'll let them speak for themselves and tell us what their roles are in their respective schools. So let's start with Andrew. Good to see you, Andrew. If you want to tell us what your role is and what school you're situated at.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm in Linn Primary. It's in Larne, which is in the northeast of Northern Ireland. I'm a Year-6 teacher. I would also be head of numeracy. So that's why I was drawn towards Freckle, and I guess we had used Accelerated Reader in the past, and we tried a little bit of Accelerated Maths, but we saw Freckle and thought that might be even more accessible.
Fantastic, thank you so much, Andrew. And Richard, over to you. What school are you situated in?
Hi, my name's Richard Kehoe, and I am teaching in St Ronans Primary School in Newry in Northern Ireland. I am currently assisting with the coordination of maths in our school, and I'm specifically in charge of Star Maths and Freckle. We would have used Accelerated Reader ourselves, and we're particularly interested in Star Reader and the data that provides us with. The reason we went for Freckle was because we wanted to improve our maths underachievement in the school, and add to the inclusion as well, because I think Freckle is a very inclusive program for the children.
Super, thank you so much, and it's wonderful to have both your company today. Thank you for joining us and giving us your time. I know you've got valuable insight into both Star Maths and Freckle, and as a whole package too, to support your respective maths development strategies or maths implementation strategies at your schools. So let's find out. Andrew, we start with you. What was the reason the school decided to look at both Freckle and Star Maths as a supportive resource to facilitate the maths curriculum at your school?
Probably similar to Richard, we had noticed that we would have a number of pupils who seemed to underperform in numeracy, and we really wanted to look at a way that we could identify the specific areas that they found difficult, and also a way of being able to track that. And I know that we find that we get an awful lot of data from Star Maths and then from Freckle. We've only started into Freckle about the end of October, so we're quite fresh with it. So we'd be on our second Star Maths set of tests. So the initial pathway in was through Accelerated Reader, which really, I think, has improved reading ages for pupils and spurred us on. We'd done a little bit of Accelerated Maths, but we find it a bit more difficult to manage. And then whenever we saw that Freckle was there, it seemed more accessible. So we thought that we would, whenever I looked into that, I thought that would be a really good, fun, interactive way of encouraging some of our pupils to spend a bit more time on targeted numeracy.
Fantastic, thank you. And Richard, yourself, I know you touched on it earlier as to the accessibility of and inclusivity of Freckle, but give us a little bit more information into how both Star Maths and Freckle work together to support your pupils.
Yeah, so as a staff, we had a meeting at the beginning of this year and the end of last year as well about the underachievement in numeracy, and it was the rate of underachievement was particularly higher than in literacy. So we wanted to bring that down. We had been using another program which wasn't from yourselves, but we feel like Freckle now is a whole lot more effective. It's good for both the underachievers, but also it's great for stretching the higher ability children as well. As Andrew said, Star Maths is brilliant. Like Star Reader, you can pull a lot of data from it. You can use it for your planning then. If there's any children who are maybe falling into the category of underachieving, you can just keep a closer eye on them, and with that then you can set challenges for them on Freckle, which can and has done. It has really helped a lot of children in our school out, even though we just started, as Andrew said, close to October time we started as well. So it's brilliant. We're enjoying it.
Fantastic. It's good stuff. As long as you as a staff are getting what you need out of it in terms of seeing, reliable and impactful progress data and reliable lesson activities, and students are getting out what they need in terms of engagement, then it's a winning for everyone. So one of the main features, gentlemen, that schools all over the world love about Freckle, and why the reason they pushed over the fence into implementing Freckle in their respective school is that Freckle provides all pupils with independent maths practice at just the right level and just the right step for every individual pupil. So, Andrew, putting it over to you, have you seen evidence of that in the time you've been using Freckle? And if so, what have you seen for your pupils?
Definitely. It's very easy for me to pull down growth data. So I can look into individual pupils, and it will very specifically show me if they have, for example, maybe gone up 0.27 of a year. It's as precise as that. So for any child, I can look at their growth data. What I would say is, for anyone who does start out, whenever we did the STAR Maths tests to begin with, and then pupils went on, initially it showed a few more pupils were struggling a little bit in their maths, and a few teachers had a little bit of a flap about that, because they thought, are their maths levels actually going down? But as I'm sure you've explained to people, because the programme levels according to the pupils, if they've had a result which is better than they'd normally be in their STAR Maths, then it will eventually adjust to their level. So initially for the pupils, a few of them found some things very tricky, but we just had to explain to keep persevering. But once the baseline was there, I've been able to see week on week progress for pupils, and it's very, very easy to go through. I can get information if a pupil's done a task, if they've achieved more than 50%, if they're above 80% in the task. I can then look at that, and then I can go into the individual questions and go through those with them. So as well as being a whole class tool, it's really good on a personal level for each individual pupil, and even reporting back to parents as well.
Fantastic, Andrew. Thank you so much. And we'll come back to that, the information you can share with parents, and we'll touch on STAR Maths as well with regards to the various data and reports we can look at for stakeholders. But Richard, putting over to you, how does Freckle support your child-centered, pupil-centered learning, bespoke learning at just the right level?
Yeah, exactly what Andrew has said. But to add to that, the massive thing for me is that differentiates and adapts for every topic in numeracy. So, I have some children who excel in time, but they might not do so well in, number activities, addition and subtraction. So it's great that, it would adapt for them. So if they're doing addition and subtraction, they could be working at year 3 level. And yet if they're, in measurement, they could be working at year 6 level. So I think I've seen other programs where it adapts the entire maths curriculum and takes it back to a year 2 or 3 level for that child, and every topic is working at that level. But it's good that it differentiates for each topic.
Fantastic, good stuff. And of course, differentiation there being the key word, ensuring that the full spectrum of pupils' ability and understanding is covered with Freckle. And as you referred to earlier, Richard, it's an inclusive tool that ensures all Freckles can be part of the same lesson, the same learning, but at their own pace. So one of the key features that Freckle boasts, one of the features that splits it apart from the other maths practice solutions in the EdTech world, is it boasts the ability to balance fun and learning with fun incentives and age-appropriate designs. This keeps pupils engaged in maths practice fundamentally, most importantly, ensuring that, from A to Z, the sequence of learning they need to carry out on whatever topic or dimension that you're currently learning within the maths curriculum, they're focused, and you can see that maths engagement happening in front of your eyes. Andrew, is this evidence you've seen as well? Is maths engagement apparent for your pupils, and is that because of the features and the fun animations and illustrations that Freckle provides?
Yes, my pupils love it. They really enjoy it, and I would have a very wide ability range in class, and a wide range of some children who would be naturally very enthused in school, others who would be less so. Some who, because I teach year 6, some who at this stage have maybe struggled in the past with maths. We're coming out of 2 lockdowns as well. And I think all of that, I know, has created a unique set of issues for us. But my pupils love it. They love to go on at the start of a week and choose a target, so they can set a target for the week. They then get rewards and coins that they can go on to the store and then adjust and build their avatars. So they love that side of it. As a teacher, I like that side of it, because I've done some other programs that are very open-ended, and the children spend most of their time in the store trying to spend their coins, whereas in Freckle it is time limited, so they know that they've got a short, like a minute and a half to go on, spend time in the store, and then go back and try to build up their coins again. So that's a brilliant incentive. It's colourful, and while it is challenging, because it does adjust to their level, as Richard was saying, normally in class, if I had 3 maths groups, there would be a bit of movement between them. But as he said, some pupils may struggle with number, but might be fantastic with their data handling. And because they're getting that individualized learning, that really enthuses them as well.
Super duper. Thank you so much, Andrew. That's good to hear. It's supporting all different engagement criteria for all pupils. Let me just pose that question first of all to Richard. Richard, again, balancing fun and learning, is that evident in Freckle for your pupils? Have you seen that, and what keeps them engaged?
Yeah, well, it's engaging when during golden time, children are asking to get on to Freckle, which is amazing. I think a massive incentive is the shop, where they can go and spend the coins that they've earned. In order to spend coins in the shop, they need to earn them, and in order to earn them, they need to complete maths questions. So that's a massive incentive. And I think, as Andrew was saying, the colours and everything, it's very eye-catching. And on top of that then as well, you've got the questions can be read out to the children as well. A lot of children, I notice, tend to veer away from maths if there's a lot of wordy problems. But because that's so accessible to children who might struggle with reading, then it's not an issue for them anymore, and they're looking to get on just as much as the other children are.
Fantastic. It's good to hear, Richard. It's doing exactly what it says on the tin. It's keeping them engaged, and it's supporting, like I say, the whole spectrum of your pupils. I think Brian was just giving us his pardon, so it seems he's left. But again, attendees, or those of you watching on demand, if you have any questions for our guests today or our Freckle Renaissance representatives, please do put them in live chat or pop us an email at answers@renlearn.co.uk or find us on Twitter @renlearnuk. Wonderful, good stuff, gents. Okay, moving on to the next point then. What we want to see for teachers, what we want teachers to get out of Freckle, and how Freckle supports classroom practice and progress monitoring. Freckle gives teachers the ability to pinpoint knowledge gaps and determine where to spend instructional time in the various reports and the subsequent data and information it gives teachers after activities have been completed. Andrew, what have you seen from Freckle in terms of instructional informative information that hopefully helps you subsequently with lesson planning and individual pupil development?
I would tend, whenever we use Freckle in class, we're fortunate enough, we have a set of Chromebooks that we share with the other year 6 class. So whenever the pupils are doing, we would tend to work on it at a period of time as a whole class, although it can be done in small groups as well. I can look in real time and see how pupils have gone with the task, and it will show me very quickly the class list, and if pupils have been very good, anyone who's struggling. So I can straight away identify that and get alongside them and help them at that moment, rather than waiting until I've collected in work to see where they are. Whenever they finish, I can then look through very quickly and see which pupils have managed the topic really well. Those who haven't, I can then reassign activities to, and I'll then go on and maybe pick a different task potentially at a slightly lower level to try to help them as well. So it means if I go through a topic, sometimes I would introduce a topic like data handling, and then we would do some Freckle activities. And it lets me see how the pupils have managed with each aspect of it. And then it lets me reassign activities to pupils and help them again. And quite often pupils don't like to go back and revisit their work. If they've worked in class and they've maybe got something wrong, they can at times be a little bit reluctant to work at questions. But with Freckle, I found that they can be reassigned to a task, they can be guided through it and helped a little bit more. And then in turn, when they see success, I find that that's really encouraged them. A few that I had who were quite switched off with maths at the start of the year are definitely a lot more enthused about it now.
Really good stuff. And as you referred to earlier, Andrew, just like Accelerated Reader, fundamentally, if we can achieve nothing else but encourage a pupil to pick up a book off their own back and get excited about reading. If Freckle gets pupils excited about maths and engaged with maths, then as a bare minimum, a place to construct on, and that's a good foundation. Richard, over to you. Let's pose a question to you. Let me quote one of our success stories that a Freckle user school gave us earlier on in the year. You can find all Freckle success stories on our website on renlearn.co.uk. So this teacher quoted and said, with Freckle, we're able to view objectives that have been learned for each pupil. We can target specific objectives and plan instruction subsequently. Is that what you've seen, Richard? And is that what you've noticed from Freckle?
Yeah, I was actually going to touch on the targeted practice. This year, well, we only introduced Freckle this year, but we've made it a kind of focused homework program. We do use it in school as well, but we mostly have our children using it at home. So once we would complete an objective in a particular topic, we would usually once or twice a week, we would set that particular objective as a homework task. And with the thing that's good about it is you can set different targets, as I mentioned before, for different children. We can then, as teachers, go back and check, first of all, who engaged with that task and also how they got on in the task. So it'll give a percentage. For example, today, before I left school, I was able to have a little intervention with a child who achieved only 50% of the task that he was set. And some of the questions he maybe took or didn't spend enough time reading them. So I was able to go back through and clarify what he should have been doing. So it's great to target those children who need that little bit of support, or maybe children who you missed in the particular lesson that you were teaching, and you've now identified that they need a little bit more to help them achieve the target.
Fantastic. And the same with all Renaissance solutions, fundamentally, they're there to identify those pupils who are in need of intervention and then to offer subsequent support in the form of activities, curriculum and lesson plans to get those pupils back to where they should be, at benchmark or above benchmark, more importantly. So that's wonderful to hear, Richard. Good feedback. Okay, so let's talk about the link between Freckle and STAR Maths. Similar to the link between Accelerated Reader and STAR Reading, you carry out your termly or half-termly assessments on the STAR assessment side of things, and in between those important assessments that give you the data from the formative assessments, you're in keeping pupils engaged with reading practice and keeping pupils excited and self-motivated with reading in between using Accelerated Reader. And that's exactly what Freckle does in between your STAR Maths assessments, where it's daily or weekly activities with Freckle, and it's keeping them engaged with maths, and it's keeping them on target, so developing their skills, they're honing their skills, so hopefully by the time it comes to this next STAR Maths assessment, that progress and that development is evident. Andrew, over to you. How does Freckle and Star Maths help you measure the impact of maths practice and see the confidence growing in your pupils?
We've just done our second set of Star Maths assessments. We started at the end of October, so classes worked through their first set before Christmas, and then we did our second set in February. So comparing the two, a bit like Accelerated Reader, for the vast majority of pupils, you can see progress from where they started with the previous one to this one. The fact that although a few pupils didn't perform very well in their Star Maths, so they came out a little bit lower than I would have thought. But again, because Freckle adjusts, it meant that their level moved up quite quickly. And again, for a few pupils who possibly overperformed on the Star Maths test, it very quickly got them back to the level that they should have been, and then built from there. So the link's really good. Again, we're in the process of parent interviews next week. And a bit the way we would have done with the Star Reading test, it just gives a very good set of data that I can look at with pupils. With parents. It's very much based on what their child has been doing in maths and how they've worked through various topics. So it definitely links very well. I would say for anyone who does it for the first time with the Star Maths test, it's really important that the pupils just don't answer questions that they're not sure about. The first test I didn't really stress that enough, I think. And I think a few pupils possibly guessed a few questions, got it correct, and then maybe the work started off too high. But very quickly, it did level back to where they should have been.
Good stuff. Thank you, Andrew. And Richard, yourself, Star Maths assessments, is it currently that period where you're carrying out your assessments, and are you utilising Freckle to underpin maths engagement before and after a Star Maths assessment?
Yeah, we have completed our third Star Maths. So we did our first in September. We try and link it up with the Star Reader because we did Star Reader last year. We know that, try and get the first Star Maths done in September whenever they're just fresh into their new classes, and that gives you their baseline. Then we did our second one towards the end of November, and our third one we've just done the start of this month. So there's not too, because you're in school every day with the same children in your class. You don't see that level of progress, and it's good to have the Star Maths data there, looking at the growth reports to see how well your children have done, or alternatively seeing maybe some children in your class who need that little bit of a push, who could be doing that a little bit better. So it's great that you've got that data to start with. Then the link with Freckle, if they are making not as much progress as they should be, then it'll adapt their Freckle account, as Andrew has said. On top of that, then from the Star Maths data, the teachers can then go on and set different objectives. I know there is a report on Star Maths that exclusively suggests what topics or targets you should be setting for those children, which is another very useful thing. It's both of them in tandem are making it very easy for teachers to set targets.
Really good insight there, Richard. And that's absolutely true. I believe it's the instructional planning report you might have been referring to in Star Maths, which does suggest, focus skills and suggested skills in the domain of maths, whether it be for division or multiplication or etc. There you go. My colleague Sam has confirmed that it was the correct report. So yes, do utilise that, because that's honestly Star assessments best kept secret. It's a lot of teachers use it to tell you exactly, to confirm their teacher instincts and give them the data in front of them as to how pupils have progressed throughout the course of the year. What a lot of teachers don't see in Star assessments is it actually gives you a lot of lesson planning and focus skills and instructional information for future learning, and that's all there to be utilised as well. So do have a look at the Star Maths side of things and link it with your Freckle accounts to make sure that formative assessment and continuous maths practice is always being utilised. And of course, check in with your account manager or go onto the Renaissance website to see if you've got any outstanding training where you can have a one-to-one session with a coach who can walk you through that. Okay, Andrew, let's talk about the future of Freckle at the school and how it's going to continue to support the next cohort. The more you use it, the more you begin to understand it, and the more you begin to see how your pupils interpret it and understand it, you'll be able to offer it and administer it more effectively for future cohorts. So Freckle boasts over 60,000 maths questions, and it continuously adapts to meet students where they are and help them progress on their individual learning path. So going forward, Andrew, how much of a core component is Freckle maths practice going to be for your numeracy development strategy?
I think it's going to be key. At the moment, we're using it in 4-year groups, so that will be years 3, 4, 5, and 6. As Richard said, we were a little bit late getting set up and started this year, so it was really at the end of October. But ideally, in the way we would have done with Star Reading, you would start the year with Star Maths. So next year, we would start the year with Star Maths. The teacher would also have all the data from the previous year to look at any areas that pupils have struggled with or any areas that they need extra reinforcement with. So at the moment already, with those 4-year groups, we have a little WhatsApp group just with Freckle. So it would mean that the people would be able to go onto that and ask me questions, but it also means that people are going to be able to share information at the end of the year. In the past, we would have given the year group report, but there's an awful lot more information that we can now give to the next teacher, because they can very quickly log on and see where the pupils are, see the areas that they've made improvement in. So as I said, we're fortunate enough to be able to use Chromebooks as a whole class. So it's something that we've been able to really integrate into pretty much daily practice, where the pupils will come in and they'll spend a little bit of time in the morning working on Freckle, and then they'll have a go perhaps at a task later on in the day. So it's very much, I wouldn't say taking the place of other aspects of numeracy, but I think it definitely is now a key part of our numeracy time. And initially, some teachers were a little bit reluctant, in a sense, to give up some of that numeracy time. But as they have seen how the pupils engage with it and how useful it is for them, then moving forward, I just see it as being something that really fits in very seamlessly to our daily numeracy practice.
Fantastic. And like you said, Andrew, it's important, with in an age where pupils having to be digitally literate with more devices, more accessible devices like iPads and Chromebooks in the classroom now. Solutions like Freckle are there to, as a learning resource to support their learning and support your teaching, just like, the whiteboard once upon a time was the latest in innovative technology for teachers. Richard, how about yourself? Going forward, what's the role of Freckle? What role is Freckle going to play in your learning going forward?
Yeah.
And how will it support future cohorts?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very important. It's good that we've used this year to learn as much as we can as a school, and although we use Freckle from P3, which is year 2, to P7, which is year 6, we include every staff member in our training sessions, just in case you don't know if they're going to be using it next year or not. So I think that's vitally important to start with. Also, some of the things that we've learned, for example, whenever I try and encourage as much usage as possible. Now, initially, I went off time used by, time spent on Freckle. But now I've started to look at the amount of math sessions that has been going on, because the reason I figured that out was because I was doing that for my class, and one child in particular had spent a long period of time, but maybe only completed a certain amount of questions. So I think it's important to look at the amount of math sessions that are spent, just to encourage the use of the program throughout the school. Also, we would love to be able to use it more as a resource in school, which we're not doing too much because we don't have the facilities for it. Basically, we've got 5 iPads in each classroom, and we do have a set of 30 Chromebooks, but that's shared throughout the school. So, in the future, it will be very beneficial to hopefully, as Andrew has, get a shared class set, which means we could get on more often.
Of course, absolutely, and it's good to see there's a continuous role for Freckle to play in the schools numeracy development strategy there too, Richard. So just quickly, moving away from the math side of things just for a minute, because a lot of our feedback, as you can imagine, it's enthusiastically come back from students saying how much they enjoy the avatar side of it, and the avatar customization and the journey side of Freckle. The idea that they take a character, they develop their character as their maths development goes along the journey from the beginning of the academic year to the end. As they meet their target outcomes, they have more opportunity to customize that avatar. Andrew, how crucial has that engagement with customizing their avatar and having essentially a connection with their avatar as it develops on its journey, coinciding with their own maths development? How crucial has that been for engagement?
I think it really helped initially whenever pupils saw a very concrete reward for what they'd done, that it wasn't just that they got praise from me, which is important, obviously, but that they saw that they got a certain amount of coins that they could then use with their avatar. So I think initially that definitely helped some who were a little bit more reluctant to engage. All the pupils enjoy that. They enjoy LinkedIn with that. At the start of this week, I think I'd asked them to start something, and then someone reminded me that I hadn't told everyone to set a weekly target. So although if they achieve their weekly target, they do get a reward for coins, I think the avatars are great, but I would say I think for some of them it's that while they enjoy that, I suppose that led them into enjoying Freckle, and now they will dip in and out of that, but certainly they're very happy to just work on the activities and the tasks, spend a little bit of time, certainly customizing those. So it is important that they're there, but also I think it's just a sense of achievement that they get and seeing their levels go up, which I think would probably be the key thing for us.
Of course, absolutely. As always, as long as it ends up in impact and evidence of learning and progression, then that's the most important aspect. Richard, same for you. I mean, I'll read a quote from one of the students at another school who utilised Freckle. This is from a Key Stage 1 student, I believe. So it's a student between the ages of 4 and 6. I love Freckle because the sums were fun and I would love to go on it again. The avatar outfits were great and I loved doing all the maths. So good testimony there from one of the students using Freckle. What about you, Richard? Have you noticed the avatars and the customizable features of Freckle resonating with your pupils?
Yeah, definitely. As we said before, in order to buy anything in the shop, you need to earn coins, and in order to earn coins, you need to complete questions. You can, I think Sam mentioned in the chat that you can set task first mode, which means you have to complete tasks first, so they can't just be playing in the shop and get carried away. But I've used the shop as a little tool or a little weapon sometimes, particularly around Halloween time. I had a competition who could dress up their character the best, Christmas time who could dress up their avatar the best, which encourages them to get on, get completing questions and get dressing up their avatar. So I think it can be used as a good incentive.
Really good stuff, really good feedback there. So just lastly then, if we look at wrapping up the webinar now, gents, Star Maths and Freckle as we've spoken about before, the chemistry between them both, in terms of the outcomes they give you as teaching staff, the data of progress that you can see throughout the course of an academic year. We spoke briefly earlier about sharing information with stakeholders, with parents. What about senior leadership? For those representing, you might be head of maths department, you might be the head teacher or a deputy head teacher. What does the reports and the data from Freckle and Star Maths give your senior leadership teams or your school governors or your the key stakeholders? What does it give you in terms of tangible evidence of progress? And generally, do SLT buy into it? Is it reliable? And do they utilise that evidence as legitimate evidence of progress? Andrew, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, very much so. While we are still obviously in the early part of the journey with Freckle, it's really been since last October, November time. I think it's the fact that normally we would have had our standardised tests that we work through every year on our reading tests, but in a sense that might have been a twice yearly snapshot of where pupils were. And the thing for Freckle is that you get an awful lot of information really on a week-to-week basis. One thing that I know I didn't mention is that every teacher who signed up gets an email each week that actually gives you a script that you can read to the pupils that praises those who have worked and who have engaged and who have improved in a very specific area. It also is a way of really encouraging pupils to keep going. With regards to senior leadership, I'm numeracy coordinator, and if we sit now, I guess it just adds to the data that we have, but it's sometimes you can almost get data overload, but it's very useful and it's very targeted, and you can drill down into what you've got for each individual pupil, but you can also have a look at a class set and see how those pupils are progressing as well. It's very accessible. We would tend to use an iPad, and it means that you can get on and you can get a wealth of data inside 2 or 3 minutes. You can set the parameters. I think Richard had mentioned that. So I can look and see not just how pupils have performed over the past week, but I can look and see how pupils have performed over the past 2-3 months. So you can get a very, very clear idea of the progress that they've made, and then also areas that maybe some of them are struggling in.
Fantastic. And what about yourself, Richard? The data and the information and the statistics you can see throughout a whole academic year's worth or a term's worth of progress that your pupils making. Do SLT look at it and do they see that as tangible evidence of progress?
Yeah. So far, we've used particularly the Star Maths data. And the standardized scores for that, and we've kind of set targets. We set targets in October, based on the first Star Maths test, and we hope then to check back at the end of the year and see how those targets have been achieved, hopefully. And we're using Freckle, to achieve those targets. As well as that, our individual education plans for any SEN children in our classes. We set targets based, if anybody has any issues with numeracy, we would try and use Freckle to encourage those children to get onto Freckle and achieve those targets in their individual education plans. So that's something that we all discussed as the staff, and it's something that's working quite well.
Of course, and on that note, it's something we've neglected actually to discuss. Andrew, just quickly, conscious we've got 3 minutes left, but demographics as well, specific demographics in your school, Andrew, whether it's SEN children, boys or girls specifically, EAL students, as a complete package, as a complete numeracy package, does Freckle coupled with Star Maths help you to identify and support learning for specific demographics?
Definitely. At Richard's point on IEPs, I should have mentioned that as well. We would have used Accelerated Reader in the past, which obviously can give you targets of children's levels and the words that they've read. So we find that Freckle, Maths and Accelerated Reader very much do enable you to target pupils in specific areas. I would say that that some of my most reluctant pupils who might have been a little bit switched off by numeracy, it's their final year of primary school, and with particularly with the 2 lockdowns that we've had, some of the pupils who maybe didn't engage so well during that. I think Freckle has really given us a tool to target them and to try to bridge some gaps that have been there. It's also helped us to identify gaps, because it can be very difficult for teachers to, they know that pupils are maybe struggling, but they don't have the exact data. So definitely, I think that that Freckle and Star Maths really help us to do that. It's very low in admin for teachers as well, which everyone likes. It's very easy to log on, and you just tap a few buttons and you can get all the information that you want.
Fantastic, good to hear, Andrew. Richard, can you vouch for that too? Is there if not a reduction in teacher workload, is there certainly not an addition to any teacher workload with Freckle?
Yeah, I mean, Freckle could work by itself if you wanted it to, but it's obviously a lot more effective with teacher input, which is very easy to do as well. Everything's right in front of you. There's maybe 5 tabs along the side, which make it each thing, reports. You can check their activity feed. It's just there at a click of a button, and it's very easy to do. A lot easier than programs I've used in the past, which is good. And as Andrew said, reluctant learners love to get onto Freckle, and it baffles me. Some of the children who might not write anything down in a whole lesson love to get on to Freckle every time the offer's there.
Really, really good stuff. Wonderful insight from you both. Thank you so much. I've just seen a question come through on chat there. Sophie, I'm so sorry. This wasn't a product demo webinar. This was just an insight webinar where we speak to teachers to find out why Freckle's working for them. But if you do want to see Freckle in action and you want to see a product demo, then by all means, my colleague Colin Dobson, who's in on this call, would be happy to set you up with a product demo so you can see Freckle in action, what it looks like and how it works, and the behind the scenes of Freckle, if you like, in regards to the graphs and the data that teachers can pull off. But with regards to this webinar, thank you, gentlemen, so much for your time. Andrew and Richard, it's been really wonderful insight to see how and hear how Freckle has supported your students, specifically the different metrics that you're using to support maths development and maths practice, and of course the key features of Freckle that you exemplify perfectly, that you're utilising perfectly, as we would want any school to be demonstrating best practice with Freckle to get the most out of it. That would be perfect.
While Freckle's mission is to empower all students, we have always known we can't do that without you, the educator. Educators committed to the responsibility of providing a quality learning experience where each student feels seen and has their needs met. Freckle is a practice tool directly inspired by the work and dedication of educators like you.
Hi there. I'm so pleased because I've been wanting to say a few things and put you into chat, but I've been tracking the launch of Freckle, been very much involved with the delivery of it, and I really wanted to ask the question about workload, but both of you said that already, the fact that you can just get on so easily, click of a button. I mean, I want this quote that you said about being able to you have a wealth of data in 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, I'm very conscious being a teacher, the amount of workload that is upon you. Can you just sort of sum up in a nutshell how Freckle has actually helped reduce the workload, but also be as impactful as you want it to be as well?
Andrew, if I pose that question to you first.
Yes, as a teacher as well, it is very important. And I think that as our staff have used it through this year, they have actually seen the benefits, but also how easy it is. If they're working on a specific topic, they can go across to the taskbar and they can very quickly pull up an activity that's based around that. So it's something that you can actually do even as pupils come in the morning for the day. It can be done in 2-3 minutes. It's taken a little bit of time just to get to grips with where all of those topics are, but certainly it's something that's very, very quick and very, very, very easy to manage.
Are you writing fewer notes now then? Are you doing very much working on using the reports and zooming in on what's been going on yesterday and last week. Because I know that when I was teaching, you used to have copious notes and try to cross-reference everything. But is it easier now?
Will I go again? I don't want to say.
Go ahead, Andrew.
You can pick up anything I don't answer. Yes, definitely. Because all the information's there, and you can simply hit a couple of buttons, and you can show the progress that pupils have made over the course of a month, over the course of a week. It's very easy to do that. You can even just screenshot it on the iPad, get a report, screenshot that, and that gives you a little bit of evidence there as well. So it definitely doesn't involve any day-to-day writing in that sense, because it's all there.
Yeah, from my perspective, and some teachers in my school poke fun at me for this, but I'm so passionate about Freckle and about Star Maths that it's actually enjoyable to go through, and that could just be me, but it's so enjoyable to go through the data and have a wee look at both Star Maths and Freckle and see how your class is doing. And see that the progress that they're all making. So I don't know if that's just me. I'd say, Andrew, you're probably the same as well.
Yeah, I love having a little look at the data. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, welcome to the Freckle Club.
Thank you. And Francis, my principal would probably want me to say, I think you know this already, we call all our pupils who win awards Freckleteers.
You're the ones I've been tweeting then. Yes. You're the ones. That's great. Long may that continue. That's really great. Then they feel a real sense of ownership and belonging, and they're up there. That's really good. Oh, great, Richard. It's nice to be connected.
Yeah.
I might steal that if that's okay.
Would.
I like that. Because we had
permission granted.
Thank you. Yeah. No, because we had accelerated reader millionaires. So yeah, that would work well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks, James.
Thank you so much, Francis, and thank you, Andrew and Richard, for your time today. What a wonderful input, and there is a great Freckle community on social media, guys. Do get involved. Find us at Learn UK. Richard's school is involved, and we're constantly retweeting and sharing success stories with Freckle, Star Maths, and all the Renaissance solutions. So get involved on social media, and of course, it's a wonderful forum for best practice tips for our schools. For those of you who are in the webinar today or watching on demand, if you want to see Freckle, up close and how it can support your school specifically, book a demo. Go onto our website, renlearn.co.uk/Freckle, or you can go straight to the man himself, Colin Dobson at renlearn.co.uk, and you can book a demo through Colin as well. Gents, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to let you go. I'm sure it's home time for all of us now, so thank you again. And if you have any questions, by all means, do get in touch. Thanks, everyone.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Renaissance Space podcast, please check out the Education Joining the Dots podcast from our colleagues at GL Assessment. Thank you.